Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Loving obeisances unto the Supreme Being Vasudeva, who is everything there is. Janmadyasya yato anvayaditaratascha artheshu abhigyasvarat tene brahmahridaya adikavaye muhyanti yatsurayah tejo vari mridam yatha vinimayo yatra sargo mrisha dhamna svena sada nirastakohakam satyam param dhimahi. We meditate upon the transcendent absolute being from whom springs forth this universe. He is present in all that exists and yet distinct from everything. He is fully conscious and totally independent. He revealed to the first seer Brahma the import of Vedic wisdom. The material creation, made of threefold gunas, appears in him as though real, like water in a mirage. Being eternally self effulgent, he is ever free of the illusion maya of the material world. We meditate upon him, the Supreme Being. Nigamakalpataror galitam phalam shukamukad amritadrava sanyutam pibata bhagavatam rasamalayam muhuraho rasika bhuvi bhavukaha. O devotees who relish a taste for divine love, Bhagavatam is the fully ripened fruit of the wish-yielding tree of Vedas, flowing as immortal nectar from Shuka Brahma Rishi. Go on drinking this nectar day after day. We are now entering the sixth chapter of the fourth Skandha of Srimad Bhagavatam. We have seen thus far that Daksha Yajna was destroyed by the part manifestation of Shiva called Virabhadra. Daksha had insulted Shiva and also caused Mother Sati to drop her body, and therefore Shiva's manifestation Virabhadra, along with the attendants of Shiva, had destroyed the yajna, and also Virabhadra had beheaded Daksha. Now we continue. Having been beaten and limbs broken even badly, all the various beings in that yajna who had run away, this includes the priests, the various heavenly beings, the divinities, and so on, they were all attacked and beaten and their limbs broken by various weapons such as tridents, which is trishul, spears, swords, maces, clubs, mallets, all kinds of weapons used by the attendants of Shiva and Virabhadra broke their limbs, damaged them badly, and they somehow ran away from there, those who could save themselves, and they all went to Brahma, and they were all keen on completing the sacrifice because a sacrifice that's begun ought to be completed, and so they were very disturbed that this had happened due to Daksha's arrogance, and due to which Daksha was destroyed and the sacrifice was completely stopped. So they went to Brahma and they bowed to him and they narrated what happened in detail. Brahma heard them and he said, "You are all actually guilty because of the offense against Lord Shiva. Shiva deserves the rightful share of any sacrificial offering, and by not giving him any portion of the offering, which Daksha did, and to which you did not object, since you were all part of it, you have all committed an offense against Shiva, and therefore, whatever came upon is fully justified. Now, the only way out of this is to invoke His grace by going and clasping the lotus feet of Shiva. Only by surrendering to Lord Shiva with a heart free of any malice and by totally acknowledging your offense and asking for His forgiveness, only by that can you be out of this. And you have to know that Shiva is all merciful and he is easily pleased. In fact, Shiva's one name of Shiva is called Ashutosh. Ashutosh literally means one who is instantly pleased. The word Tosh is the same root for Santosh, happiness or being pleased, and Ashu means in an instant. So he is Ashutosh because he is instantly pleased by those who surrender unto him. So Brahma says, for you to revive the sacrifice and complete it, go and ask for forgiveness of that great divinity Shiva, who was offended by the actions of Daksha and who has also now lost his beloved consort, Mother Sati. Because it is not only important for you to complete the sacrifice, but also it's important for the peace of the whole universe, because Shiva being angry causes great disturbance to the whole universe, and there cannot be any sense of peace, any sense of balance, harmony in nature, even unless Shiva is pacified. And he also says, nobody has the power, I cannot, and nobody can make anything happen to right this except Shiva's grace alone. Therefore, please go and beg for his forgiveness. And then Brahma says, I will also come along with you, because Brahma realizes that because of the gravity of the situation, instead of just sending them by themselves, Brahma decides to go along with them. So from Brahma Loka, where they met, they all go to Kailash, the chief of mountains. Now we get the description of the great Mount Kailash. This is the abode of Lord Shiva. This is the chief of all the mountains. This is the most sacred place in the Himalayas. This is where everyone goes for pilgrimage from different religions, even. And this is still in present day Tibet, marked as a holy spot by all traditions, and nobody dares to even ascend this mountain, but only goes around this mountain circumambulating because of the greatness of this mountain. So this Mount Kailash, which is the abode of Lord Shiva, is where they all reach. And Kailash, they all see Kailash, and the beauty of Kailash is so awe-inspiring. It is endowed with those beings who are all having various supernatural powers. Various beings are there. They first, as they enter Kailash, they see so many beings who are there, Siddha Purushas as it's called, who are having various siddhis, various supernatural powers because of their penance, because of their practice of yoga, and also because of the various herbs that are found uniquely in the mountain Kailash. And they see these various beings engaged in various supernatural powers. They also see Gandharvas, who are celestial musicians, and Apsaras, who are celestial dancers in the mountains of Kailash, in the on the various sides of Kailash mountain, and the different summits within Kailash itself are filled with various jewels, various minerals, and there are all kinds of beautiful trees and creepers. Now Kailash is generally a mountain covered with fully snow, and yet beneath the snow there is the mystic inner vision. There are various aspects of Kailash which are not said to be visible to the ordinary senses, and which are only visible to the supernatural senses, and that is why the celestial beings and the various other divinities that are present there are not visible by the normal pictures and the human sense perception. But it is said that Kailash has all kinds of opulences that are seen only by a mystic vision, and those opulences are described here in terms of various kinds of trees and creepers and wild beasts and siddhas and their wives. And there is all kinds of beautiful birds such as cuckoos and peacocks and different kinds of completely new and fancy looking birds. There is the humming sound of bees which are going around the flowers that are filled with honey. And there are various wish shielding trees which are tall, and they are drawing new birds which are unseen anywhere else. There are elephants that are in motion, and there are very clear streams, so many clear streams of water. All of these are seen to a little extent in the Himalayas as we go. We see these clear streams, we see various animals, we see beautiful flowers, we see shrubs, and we see uh, different kinds of birds and all that. But as Kailash is described, it's the peak of all mountains, all Himalayas, and therefore it has extremely exquisite and unique set of animals and birds and flowers and trees. And the different trees are described as parijatas, tamalas, arjunas, champakas and ashokas and betel nut trees, birches, fig trees, soapnut trees. So many different trees are described. All kinds of beautiful trees make up the forests on the sides of the mountain Kailash, and most importantly, there are banyan trees and a very central banyan tree, which we will see later. So, this whole mountain is filled with all kinds of such grand trees, which are all as tall as if touching the skies. And there are swarms of birds that are swirling around these trees, making all kinds of beautiful noises and sounds. And there are ponds that are full of lilies and lotuses. And there are animals such as deers and monkeys and boars and lions, all kinds of wild buffaloes, wild beasts. They are all floating around and they are all moving around. And there is the various other types of musk deers, wolves, and uh, animals that are not seen on earth normally, that are all seen there. And then it is surrounded by two rivers which are called Nanda and Alaknanda, and which are encircling a city on top of the mountain called Alaka. Alaka is the capital of Kubera. We saw Kubera as a divine being in the chapter on the various divine beings produced by the Prajapatis. And Kubera, who is the lord of wealth, the Yaksha, has his capital city right there on Kailasha. And this beautiful city is called Alaka, and it is surrounded by two rivers, Nanda and Alaknanda. And Alaknanda, in fact, flows down to Badrinath, and from there it comes and joins Mother Ganga in this beautiful place called Dev Prayag. Alaknanda is a heavenly river again, and so is Nanda, and they are both sanctified by the lotus feet of Sri Hari, the Supreme Being. And there are various aerial cars that are floating around, various divine beings and ladies who are coming. So the whole place is so mystical, so opulent, so fantastic in every way, beyond any human imagination, the most opulent of all, and all kinds of various jewelry floating around. The aerial cars are all made of jewels. Kubera, being the lord of wealth, having his capital there, the place is filled with so much wealth, and the whole city looks like sky itself with clouds of light. So, with such opulence, that city is found, and these divine beings, headed by Brahma, are crossing and after they cross the capital of Kubera, they see a beautiful garden called Saugandhika. The very word Saugandhika means a garden with beautiful fragrance, and it has so many beautiful trees and with flowers of various colors and fragrances and birds, and especially sandal trees with breezes that are carrying the perfume of sandalwood, and all kinds of such opulences, and also many extensive wells. There are beautiful wells of water filled with blue lotuses, and stairs that one can take to go down into the well, and that are frequented by various divine demigods that are all found there. And after they cross all this, they finally come to the heart of Kailasha, which is where there is a giant banyan tree. So now we come to get darshan of Shiva. After describing the dham of Shiva, the abode of Shiva, Kailasa, in detail, Bhagavatam now takes us to the darshan of Shiva. There is the sacred banyan tree, which is extremely tall and so wide, its canopy extending in all directions and giving a permanent shade on all sides from sun. And beneath this tree, all the various devatas and various divine beings, rishis, are all sitting down, and in the center of them all on a platform is sitting the Supreme Lord Shiva. He is sitting there with great concentration and with total abidance in his own self, and seated like the abode of Shanta. So earlier there is a verse that describes Shiva as Charachara Gurum Shanta Vigraham Atma Ramam. See, he is the guru of all beings. He is the very embodiment of peace, and he is ever in the bliss of his own self. And that's exactly how Shiva is seated here as the teacher of all the beings, Guru, embodiment of peace, and ever in his own bliss. And surrounded by him are various realized and peaceful souls, such as the four sagely boys we have seen before: Sanaka, Sanatana, Sanandana, Sanat Kumara. They are sitting there. Kubera himself is sitting there. Kubera, whose capital city is there in, in Kailasa, he is himself come there to get the teachings of Shiva. And Narada is there, and all the great beings are sitting there right around Shiva. And Shiva, who is the friend of the whole universe and who engages always in meditation to set the right example for everyone and engages in penance, which is conducive for the welfare of the whole world, is sitting there. And how he is seated there, his physical characteristics are described by Bhagavatam. So we see, by the way, how Bhagavatam gives the most vivid, graphic, and detailed description of the abode of Lord Shiva and Lord Shiva himself in the most divine and devotional terms. And this is the greatness of Bhagavatam, that it not only describes all the various pastimes of Sri Hari and his avatars, but also gives such detailed description of the abode of Lord Shiva with just as much grandeur. And here we see that Shiva is seated there as the guru of all, and his body is looking like a cloud, which is so dear to all ascetics. The color of the body is like that of a cloud, and it has got ashes all over him. There is a staff right next to him. He is wearing matted locks and a deer skin, and there is a crescent moon on his forehead. This is the description of Shiva. It says, Lingam cha tapasa bhishtam bhasma danda jatajinam angena sandhya brarucha chandralekham cha bibhratam. This is how Shiva is described. So he is called as Tapasa Bhishtam, that is, he is dear to all those who are in tapas. And what has he got? He's got bhasma, ashes, danda, a staff, jata, matted locks, and ajinam, the deer skin around him. And he's got Chandralekha, the crescent of the moon, adorning his forehead. This is how Shiva is seated there. We can envision Shiva sitting majestically with matted locks flowing down, with a deer skin around his waist, with ashes all over his body, with a staff right next to him, and with the crescent of the moon adorning his face on the forehead. And he is seated on a mattress of kusha grass. And what is he doing there? He is expounding the truth of Brahman to Narada and all the sages who are putting questions to him. See, this is the beauty of the whole vision, is that Shiva is simply there giving the Brahmopadesha to all the sages. It says, Upavishtam Darbamyam Brisyam Brahma Sanatanam Naradaya Pravochantam Prichate Shrunvatam Satam. So when Narada and all the rishis are asking questions to Shiva on Brahma Tattva, on the supreme truth, the absolute truth of Brahman, and Shiva is giving the teachings to Narada and to Sanaka, Sanatanas, and all the brothers, and to all the sages sitting there around while seated on a kusha grass. And how is he seated? It's described also so beautifully. His left lotus foot is on his right thigh. So we can imagine how he is sitting not fully cross-legged. And this is the posture of Shiva envisioned in many depictions. The right foot is on the ground. The left foot is above and seated on the right thigh. And there are Rudraksha seeds around his wrist and around his neck, and his right hand is in what is called as Jnana Mudra. which is that the thumb and the index finger are together while the other three fingers are straight pointing. So this is the vision of Shiva sitting with his right foot down, right leg down, left leg lifted up, left foot on his right thigh, with his right hand in Jnana Mudra, while he is seated there with the ashes and with the Rudraksha beads around him, and with the matted locks and deer skin, and all the sages headed by Narada seated around him asking about the supreme truth, and he is giving them advice as the Charachara Guru. This is the scene in Kailasa which we are shown, the most divine scene of Shiva and surrounded by all the sages with the most detailed and vivid vision given by the grace of Bhagavatam. And this is where all the various devatas and the various divine beings who are headed by Brahma reach now. And with their palms joined, they all come to see Shiva. They all land before Shiva, who is absorbed in the joy of oneness with the Absolute. So, as soon as they all land there, they bow in front of Shiva, and Shiva sees Brahma heading the retinue of sages and divine beings. He gets up from his seat and he also offers his pranam, and then they are all welcomed. And then Brahma now speaks to Shiva. Brahma is bowing with the Namaskar mudra to Shiva, and Shiva is also having the same mudra. And it says, Namaskritah praha shashanka shekharam krita pranamam prahasan iva atmabhuhu. So smiling, with a smiling face, Brahma, with his hands together in Namaskar mudra, addresses Shiva, who is called Shashanka Shekhara, that is one who has the moon on his head. All the names of Shiva, such as Chandra Shekhara, Shashanka Shekhara, are all coming here so beautifully. And then he says, Brahma addresses Shiva in prayer because he is leading this group of beings who have run away from the sacrifice, and he has to now pacify Shiva on behalf of them. And he first of all glorifies Shiva in his original tattva. He says, O Lord Shiva, you are the ruler of the universe, and you are the undifferentiated supreme Brahman, which is the cause of both Shiva and Shakti, or Purusha and Prakriti. That is, the masculine form Shiva, which is what is seen, and the feminine energy Shakti, which can also be equated as Purusha and Prakriti. We saw Kapila's teachings to Mother Devahudi, where it is said how Purusha is the pure consciousness and Prakriti is the material energy of Purusha, which has 24 categories. So this can be also described as Shiva and Shakti. And so here Brahma says, you are the source of both Purusha and Prakriti, that is Shiva and Shakti, which is the supreme Brahman, and therefore you are the womb and the seed. He says, Jane Twam Isham Vishwasya Jagato Yoni Bijayoho Shaktehe Shivasya Cha Param Yattat Brahma Nirantaram. Such a nice verse. So you are the eternal Brahma, Tat Yattat Brahma Nirantaram, and you are the source of Shakti and Shiva, that is the feminine and the masculine, and therefore you are the Yoni and the Bija. Yoni is the womb and Bija is the seed. So this is the symbolism behind all Shiva temples. We see the Yoni and the Shiva Linga on the Yoni. The Shiva Linga represents the seed of the masculine, and Yoni is the feminine womb, and together is the essence of all creation, and therefore he is the Lord of the universe. It says, Twam Isham Vishwasya Jagato. So you are the Lord of the universe because you are both the womb and the seed, Shiva and Shakti, and you are in essence the eternal Brahman. Then he also says, Tvameva Bhagavan etad Shiva Shaktayoho Sarupayoho Vishwam Srajasi Pastyasi Kridan Urna Pato Yatha. Again, very beautifully he says, like a sport, Kridan, you, through the energy of Shiva and Shakti, which is essentially one and the same, you create, sustain, and withdraw this universe just as the spider evolves a cobweb, holds it for some time, and then takes it back into its own mouth. If we see a spider's cobweb, that is a very beautiful way to understand this. It's a nice metaphor used by the Upanishads too. The spider spins a cobweb out of its own saliva from its mouth, brings it forth, maintains it for some time, and withdraws it back into its own mouth. Similarly, it is said that Shiva is able to bring forth this universe, hold it for some time, and withdraw it right back. So that's why he says, Tomeva Bhagavan etad Shiva Shaktayoho Sarupayoho, by the energy of Shiva and Shakti, by the masculine and the feminine. Vishwam Srijasi, you create the universe, and Pasyatsi, you withdraw it. Kridan Urna Patoyata, just as the spider spins and withdraws the cobweb. And he says, therefore, it is you who is the instrument behind even Daksha's sacrifice. So now, Brahma, having described the essential nature of Shiva as pure Brahman, which is the source of everything, now says, therefore, everything happens through your instrument, and therefore, Daksha's Yajna also happened through your instrument, and you have indeed fixed the right bounds of action for the various priests and various aspects of how a yajna should be done. And you in turn confer the right rewards for such sacrifices, which may include heaven, or in the purest sense, it can even give the final beatitude for those who are fully surrendered without any desire and who do yajna. And the truest yajna done without any desire is the inner surrender. And for those who do that inner surrender, you confer upon them the highest state of pure freedom, liberation, oneness with the Supreme Brahman, realization of that. And for others, you give heaven and hell depending on their deeds. And therefore, you are the dispenser of the right results for all the various actions, O Lord Shiva. And therefore, my prayer to you is that people who are ignorant, who perceive diversity, and therefore who are doing rituals in a mechanical way. So he is now describing Daksha. He says, those whose minds are perceiving diversity and those who are doing rituals only for mundane goals, who are doing it therefore mechanically, and who have a mind which is corrupted, which has malice in the mind, and whose heart is burning with jealousy, and who are therefore disposed to hurt others' feelings, let them also be forgiven by you, he says. So he's making a prayer to Shiva that their mind is bewildered by Maya, which is very difficult for most people to cross. So as Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Daivi Hesha Gunamayi Mama Maya Duratyaya. He says, my Maya is very bewildering and most difficult for one to cross. And then he also says, what is the way to do though? He says, Mamevaye prapadyante mayametam tarantite. One who surrenders unto me completely, he transcends this Maya. So Brahma here also says that the Maya of Bhagavan, the Maya of Sri Hari, which is what bewilders people, has bewildered Daksha too. And it is so difficult to overcome, and therefore he is caught in diversity, he is caught in malice, he is caught in petty motives, and he did the ritual with such mundane desires, and thereby he was disposed to hurt others' feelings. And it is you who has to shower your grace upon him out of your own compassion. So be pleased to shower your grace on these people such as Daksha and others whose judgment has been impaired by Maya and who fix their mind only on the ritual without the right attitude. And therefore, please revive the sacrifice started by Daksha, which has been destroyed by you and therefore could not be consummated because the unwise priests did not offer you your rightful share. So let that be forgiven. Let the sacrificer Daksha be brought back to life again. Let Bhrigu, the sage who was punished, also be forgiven. And let the gods and the priests whose limbs have been broken be made whole again. And let the sacrifice be completed. Let the sacrifice, O Rudra, be consummated today with your share rightly offered. So this is the prayer Brahma makes beautifully to Lord Shiva, while also giving the essence of Shiva as pure Brahman, and thereby pacifying Lord Shiva, who is already at peace. This is the mystery of the Lord. While he sent Virabhadra as a part manifestation who was full of fury, what we find here, though, when Brahma comes here, is Shiva is seated in perfect peace, giving Upadesha or instructions on the Supreme Brahman to sages headed by Narada, with not a hint of the anger that was there when he sent Virabhadra. So, this is the essence of the Supreme Being and also the great sages who are never affected by what happened, even if there are actions that are necessary that can result in great destruction. Their very being remains ever in the peace of pure self, and that's what Brahma finds here in Shiva, sitting there giving instructions to all the sages. And yet, Brahma offers these prayers to first glorify Shiva, which is for the benefit of all of us, and then to plead with Shiva to forgive Daksha and bring him back to life, and also to let the sacrifice be consummated. With this chapter ends. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.